Hey there, welcome back to another video. I am Ramona, and today's topic is, do you remember things from your childhood that no one else does? Or did they insist never happened? So the first begins with the OP, is I have an extremely vivid memory of being young, probably around 6 or 7 years old, and being at a carnival. We're talking clowns, Ferris wheel, cotton candy, midway section, the whole 9 yards. And I am lost, cannot find my parents, and am terrified and crying. I have brought this up to my mother before she passed, and she states that while we have gone to carnivals, I was never lost or without her. My dad also never remembers. The only other person I could have gone with would have been my godmother at our local county fair, and she states she never took me that young, and the times she did take me, I was never lost. My sister also has no recollection. Just wondering if anyone has similar stories or memories like this. I always found this memory very intriguing. I have memories of things like seeing national monuments from our car, but we never visited those places. Where the memories came from, I don't ever know. I have one of my biological father going to the building the AA meetings were held at, and he took me. This was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. Like, not to an actual meeting, but just to the building to, like, look at something or ask a question. My mom says he never has gone to an AA meeting, and he's dead now, so I can't ask him, but I swear I went inside and don't know what that building was for years. I also remember seeing a bobcat that got hit on the road. Remember exactly where it was. Again, I would have been younger than 6. And while my mom remembers the bobcat, she said it was a completely different road. Not quite the same, but still no one so else I would have sworn on it, and it didn't happen the way I feel it did. I have an extremely vivid memory of punching my sister in the face when I was about 9 years old and she was 7. I remember being so scared she was going to tell my mom that I ran and hid under a cabinet in our living room, but they found me and I got into huge trouble because my sister had a black eye. I have since mentioned this to my family and nobody else remembers it. They say I must have dreamed it, but I honestly feel like it was 100% real. Very weird. I remember having a koala bear plush toy when we moved to France when I was about 3. We lived in a caravan the first few months to make the house livable. Then we moved into the house. I lost my koala, and I remember it because I loved it, and I took it everywhere with me. Recently brought it up to my mom, and she doesn't remember my koala. Neither does my dad or my big brother, and I swear I had that damn koala, but nobody remembers it, and it's so frustrating. My sisters and I always remember stuff that didn't happen. 2 will remember an event in a specific way, but one of us is adamant that it didn't happen that way. This has been cycling through the 3 of us going on for 30 years. The conversations when we discuss this are always entertaining. I remember being at my grandmother's GED graduation. I was told it had to be because I saw pictures, because I wasn't born yet. But I vividly remember watching the graduation in person. That reminded me. My niece is talking as if she had met and played with my dog, who died a full year before she was born. It weirded me out. She could have only seen pictures, but she insists she knew him. She was about 6 or 7 when this conversation happened. Minnie, granted, it's not answering your question due to the fact that my brother remembers it as well, but my parents said it never happened. One example is that we used to live in a very secluded area in the country from about 7-11 years of age. In the fall, we had an empty plots of farming that once spring came would produce corn. Well, around fall time, September, October, like clockwork, the corn would start calling my name. It was always a whisper, nothing really loud, but it made my brother and I get out of bed and look to see who it was. Never ventured out to see, but it always bothered me. Anyway, during that time, I became friends with a guy, who I'm still friends with today. Once I moved, my parents got a divorce. I'd every now and then ask them if the new homeowners had made mention of this. Their children went to his school, and he said that yes, around the same time of year, they had heard their names being called. So I don't know. Take it for what you will. It was always kind of haunts me today. Also, shadow figures, shit levitating, things that moved when no one else was around. And someone replied with, "Isn't it always damned cornfields?" I clearly recall being about 3 or 4 years old and falling in a car from a bridge into a river. I also recall that after that, being in a hospital bed with a tent over it. I was shooting a purple plastic gun at toy soldiers. The gun fired bright green discs. There were other children sitting on the floor watching. The Archie's cartoon on TV. My parents and older sister say it never happened. Well, when your age I don't know if it was more likely exceptional paranormal activity or you're more open to it. Never was really afraid, but I know older me would be absolutely terrified. I can remember calling my mom a bitch, screaming and punching me in the face, and me running away. Literally, never happened. Memory is not a cut or dry thing, and the older the memory, the harder it is to be a solid memory. We can even have false memories. John Green of the Vlog Brothers remembers his brother Hank putting dog poop in their beloved Nintendo game system, but neither his brother nor his parents remember this. Did it really happen? John finally concluded it was a false memory. It's also possible that one of those times at the carnival you thought you were lost and you panicked, but your parents could see you the whole time and weren't worried. So while you were scared for your life, they have no recollection of anything really because, from their point of view, nothing much happened. It's also possible you dreamed it. Some dreams are so vivid you believe they really happen. Anyway, I'm glad the clowns didn't get you. Aren't we all? I remember being in kindergarten and playing a game called Gravekeeper. The teacher would turn the light off and we would all lay on the floor and pretend to be dead. The teacher would pick one kid to be the gravekeeper. The other kids would move in and out, and the last one dead got to be the gravekeeper next. This was a public school in Maryland. My mom said that this never would have happened. As a teacher, let me say, teachers, especially new ones, do make some mistakes, and while no one can talk about it, those mistakes are dealt with when the administration becomes aware. Some kid would have told someone about this game. It could be one day she played the game and the admin dealt with it and no one ever said another word. I've played this game before. Sounds plausible. This is a real memory. Yes, it probably is just my teacher was probably morbid. Not really the same, but I could remember a living room, metal furnace, large picture window with drapes, and a crib against the wall. I mentioned this to my parents, who were astonished because I was an infant. This was my crib. We lived in a military housing in Germany, and as far as we know, there are no pictures of that room. I remember I was in a diaper climbing on waiting room chairs when I was 2. My mom was having a baby, and my grandparents had brought my mom to the hospital along with me, 2, and my brother, 4. My dad showed up, and I think we left with our grandparents and went home. Sounds kind of like Glitch in the Matrix. Yeah, that's basically what these are. This is a little different, but my family once all stumbled across a huge maple tree on one of our hikes. It was creepy as hell, just had this kind of wrong air about it. It felt like you were in danger and left quickly and went back home. Now, it seems like none of us can remember this at the time. I genuinely forgot about it for years, and my husband was the one who reminded me, and he also remembered because my sister did, and now she can't recall anything about it. I'm the only one who remembers it now. If I really stick with it, and the other members of my family do eventually remember, they will all get terrified all over again. They will have forgotten by the next time I bring it up. Even my husband doesn't remember it anymore. Yes, I have one memory in particular from childhood that I guess that I've halfway convinced myself at this point is a false memory. But it seems so real I don't want to completely write it off. I was about 4ish, and my grandparents and possibly a couple of my cousins in the country driving down a dirt road with a wooden fence on either side of us. We stopped for a minute, and I don't remember why, but I got out of the car when my grandparents weren't looking. I went up to a tree on the property that had a wooden fence, and I saw a baby bear at the top of the tree. I stood at the tree and started tapping my hands on the trunk and calling to the bear because I wanted to pet it. I guess my grandpa heard me, and because I remember him running up and grabbing me to put me back in the car and telling me to never go near bears and stuff. I hadn't gotten the chance to ask him about it. At this point, he probably wouldn't remember it even if he did. I hope this makes sense. My sleepy pills are kicking in. Not really an interesting story, but it kind of bugs me that I don't remember if it really happened or not. Me and my sister both have memories of our childhood that no one else seems to recall. My sister once brought up at a family party how she and I used to stay overnight at my aunt's house on a Sunday so my parents could go to my dad's snooker club at night. Our dad would come over early Monday morning to take us home to get ready for school, and I used to hate it because we'd have to get up extra early to get there in time to get ready. My parents deny this ever happened, and so does my aunt, who said your mom and dad wouldn't have done that. But me and my sister remember it clearly. I flushed Ronald McDonald down the toilet as a kid. I jumped off the toilet and called out for him to save me, so I ran to the kitchen to grab a ladle to scoop him out. It was too late. Now, I have to get a dream, but now I get it was a dream, but it is the strongest memory I have as a child and is so incredibly real. I swore it was real for the longest time. I know it's not possible because I'm not an idiot, but part of me still thinks it's true. People insist it never happened. I was convinced by my family that a very traumatic memory from when I was a child is false. That is, until I overheard my mom and sister talking about it, and my mom confirmed to my sister that it's true, but to never let me know. 20 years of being told my memory is faulty, only to learn that my family lied to me and is planning on keeping up the lie. Well, now I want to know what it is. Hopefully it wasn't too traumatic. I have a memory of being stuck in a very high partition wall thing. I don't know how I got up there. My friends must have helped me. I couldn't come down, so I was crying and terrified. They had to call my dad to get me down, but when I asked my dad about it, he denied it. Weird. I remember being in a hurricane with my family as a small child. Our car had gotten stranded at some point trying to evacuate, and we had to wait it out there. We lived in the Texas Gulf at the time, so it was definitely possible. My brother remembers it the same way, but my parents deny it ever happened. I once cut my foot on a nail. I remember the crying and pain and everything, but my parents think it happened to my sister, when I know for a fact that it happened to me. I know exactly what you mean. I can't remember large parts of my childhood for shit because my mom was always putting me on different medicines because I was hard to manage and had ADHD. But one thing I do remember extremely vividly was when we were fishing and I was at my town's VFW, and I remember we had our feet in the water and we were fishing, and I looked out across the water and I saw this fin like an eel fin, maybe 2.5 to 3 feet long. And it was going across the water and had bones going up and webbing across it, kind of like a bat's wing. And I brought it up to people, but no one remembers it but me. When all of us saw it, and I was told to stay away from the water when we saw it. I have a few of those. I did dig into psychology a bit in college. I know that people can convince themselves of something happening. It's very common for a young child to watch something on TV and think that they were in a situation years later. But then again, not all adults have great memories either, so what you experience could be true. Our brains are weird, wonderful things, and I hope one day we can get the answers to how to understand ourselves. When I was little, maybe 8 or 10, I can't remember exactly, my town was hit by Hurricane Isabel. Even though I live in a beach town and we get hurricanes pretty much once a year, this was the only one that ever just knocked out our power and had a significant impact. My dad runs nursing homes, and back then, even though he was just an administrator, he spent the night at the nursing home during the storm in case power went out and flooding happened, etc. It's normal practice for nursing homes and hospitals. Because my mom was young and had 2 young kids, my uncle came over to stay with us during the storm. I distinctly remember him bringing his then girlfriend, and we played Star Wars Monopoly and tried to make s'mores with a lighter. I even remember them taking sharp like lighter fluid and my mom yelling at my uncle that he was going to poison us. According to Mom, however, Dad was there the whole time, and my uncle was out of town visiting said girlfriend to escape the storm. My sister is too young to remember, so she can't bear witness for me. Edit. Also, my dad has a trash memory and can barely remember what day of the week it is, so he's no help. I'm also notorious in my family for having a way too detailed memory. I can remember shit from when I was young as 2 years old. No, but interestingly, I have a twin brother with whom I share memories. I'll talk about a memory I had with my parents, with my brother in the room, and he will confirm that he had the same memory, while my parents deny that memory ever occurring. One memory that comes to mind is when he and I were around the age of 12, living in a suburban area with a large patch of woods in the backyard, bike trails running in a large oval around the woods. My brother and I distinctly remember following the dirt biking trail out of the woods and into a clearing where several perfect archways of vines and flowers littered the clearing. It's a very strange memory, and when I finally told my brother about the memory, as it came up randomly, we're talking about the house. He said that he had the exact same memory, vividly, despite our parents insisting that area didn't exist behind the woods at our house. Playing follow the leader on bikes, I was at the end of the line. We were riding along the walking trail to a parking lot when I saw an old couple walking together. My friends passed by the couple one by one. When it was my turn, the woman looked me square in the eyes, and with what my adult brain can only describe as an insidious smile on her face, baring her teeth, she lifted 2 fingers to her mouth, forming V with them, and thrashing her tongue around it, all while looking at me. A little while later, I asked my friends if they saw the couple, and they had. They just didn't see what I did, and I never talked about it again. I think that as a kid, that little experience or knowledge about the world around us, it's inherent within us to recognize something that just isn't right. What I experienced still freaks me out. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if you did. You can do the same thing if you didn't. Maybe have more impact if you actually enjoyed it. But so leave a comment. Let me know what other kind of videos you'd like me to talk about, other kind of Reddit stuff, what you like, what you don't like, and we'll try to work on that. Anyway, thank you for listening and watching, and until next time, bye-bye.